Have you ever bailed on a Friday night get-together and immediately felt a massive weight drop from your shoulders? You braced yourself for the familiar sting of guilt, but instead, your whole body just exhaled. Naturally, the very next thought is almost always a panicked, "What is wrong with me?" The short answer? Absolutely nothing. That wave of relief isn't laziness, and it's certainly not a character flaw masquerading as a personality quirk. It is the literal sound of your nervous system powering down. Yet, society has conditioned us to view the desire to be alone as a massive red flag. We have quietly, persistently treated solitude as a symptom to be cured, assuming that if you genuinely prefer your own company, you must be nursing some deep attachment wound, social anxiety, or a fundamental lack of social grace. While trauma can drive people into isolation, that's only half the story. The overlooked truth is that many individuals simply think clearer, recover faster, and live much fuller lives when no one else is in the room. Instead of debating whether being alone is healthy or unhealthy, we need to ask why society forced us to choose between the two in the first place. Consider a woman. Let's call her Sarah. She's navigating her late 20s, thrives in her career, and genuinely adores her friends. She isn't battling depression or extreme shyness, but whenever a group vacation is suggested, a quiet sense of dread starts brewing in her stomach days in advance. She goes anyway, driven by the fear that opting out makes her a bad friend. Upon returning, she experiences a bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. For years, Sarah convinced herself she was fundamentally broken, waiting to evolve into the outgoing butterfly everyone else seemed to be. It never crossed her mind that she wasn't lagging behind, she was just biologically wired to process the world differently. This brings us to the mechanics of the human brain. Back in the 1990s, Dr. Elaine Aron introduced the concept of the highly sensitive person, HSP, noting that roughly 15 to 20% of the population possesses a nervous system designed to absorb sensory and emotional data at a much deeper level. Notice the word deeper, not necessarily louder or more intense. A quick fact, modern fMRI brain scans actually back this up. Studies show that when highly sensitive people process social stimuli, the areas of their brains related to awareness, empathy, and sensory data processing literally light up with significantly more blood flow than average. These individuals aren't just weeping at sad commercials. Their mental CPUs are running a significantly higher number of background processes during a standard social interaction. And when your brain works that hard, you desperately need time to defragment your mental hard drive. So when Sarah needs a 3-day isolation chamber after a group trip, she isn't being antisocial. She is paying off a neurological debt that simply didn't apply to the extrovert sitting next to her. And tragically, she will probably apologize for it.
There's a deeply ingrained cultural narrative that humans are purely pack animals, and stepping away from the herd means you are unwell. Yes, we are wired for human connection. Groundbreaking research by John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago demonstrated that chronic loneliness triggers the exact same neural pathways as physical injury. We require community to survive. However, needing people and needing people around you 24/7 are two entirely different concepts. Consider this. Historically, many philosophical traditions, from the Stoics of ancient Greece to Eastern ascetics, viewed deliberate solitude not as a punishment, but as the ultimate laboratory for the soul. It was the only way to achieve true self-mastery. Psychologist Reed Larson spent years analyzing how people utilize their alone time. He discovered a crucial distinction: voluntary solitude. When time spent alone is chosen rather than forced, it is consistently linked to better moods, heightened creativity, and improved emotional regulation once the person returns to their social circle. Forced isolation breaks us down. Chosen solitude builds us up. The tragedy is how often we blur the lines between the two. We spot someone dining solo and automatically project pity onto them. We assume a declined invitation is a sign of rejection. We have written a collective script dictating that physical presence equals mental wellness. Because of this, countless deep thinkers spend decades performing extroversion just to pass as normal. Think about the compound interest of that performance. When you suppress your natural baseline to appease the crowd, you eventually lose the map back to your authentic self. You attend the loud parties, you force the small talk, you pick up the phone when your social battery is at zero. Eventually, this culminates in a chronic, low-grade burnout that gets misdiagnosed as career stress. We rarely pause to ask, am I exhausted from working too hard, or am I exhausted from playing a character?
Dropping the act and embracing solitude gives you something incredibly rare in the modern age: unfiltered access to your own mind. Fascinatingly, neuroscientists have found that when we are completely alone and unoccupied, our brain activates the default mode network, DMN. This neural network is absolutely essential for consolidating memories, imagining our future, and forming our core sense of identity. Solitude is the specific environment required for this network to thrive. People who are genuinely at peace with their own company possess a rare form of cognitive independence. Because they have already debated their values and sorted through their unprocessed emotions in the quiet of an empty room, they have the bandwidth to stand their ground when the crowd disagrees. They know who they are before the room tries to tell them. But let's keep it grounded. Solitude isn't automatically a virtue. In the spirit of true alchemy, we have to look at the shadow side. Solitude can easily become a convenient mask for avoidance. There is a fine line between stepping back to recharge and retreating to hide. True recharging feels like a slow restoration of your life force. Retreating, on the other hand, starts as a quick hit of relief, but rapidly spoils into numbness, apathy, and a flatlining of emotion. If a weekend of total isolation leaves you feeling empty and disconnected rather than refreshed, your body is giving you valuable data. Pay attention to it without judgment.
The individuals who master the alchemy of solitude don't wear it as a rigid identity. They aren't cynical loners. They simply treat their alone time like watering a vital plant. They pull inward to gather strength, returning to the world more grounded, present, and capable of genuine intimacy. Because real connection requires you to be fully present, which is impossible if you're running on fumes. We exist in an attention economy that aggressively monetizes our focus and engineers platforms specifically to make stillness feel unbearable. In this landscape, choosing to sit quietly with your own thoughts, undistracted, is an act of quiet rebellion. So, the next time plans fall through and you feel that rush of peace, don't apologize for it. It isn't a superpower, and it isn't a flaw. It is simply your distinct psychological blueprint communicating exactly what you need to thrive. The only real mistake would be spending your entire life defending your need for quiet and never actually taking the time to enjoy it. If this perspective hit home for you today, not just logically, but somewhere deep in that quieter place where you truly recognize yourself, you are clearly someone who isn't afraid to look beneath the surface. Welcome to Soul Alchemy. If you want to continue exploring the hidden mechanics of the mind and spirit, hit subscribe, and let's keep transforming the heavy elements of our psychology into gold.